If you're looking to land a new job, get promoted, or accelerate your career, then this one is for you. Today, LinkedIn matters more than ever, and in this session, we're going to be talking about how you can turn LinkedIn into your superpower. We've got two folks here who have done just that. They have made LinkedIn their own best asset, and they're going to tell you how to do the same. They'll share some tips and tricks for how you can get started. They'll talk about pitfalls to avoid, and they'll even give you a quick roadmap for what you should do right now to take some easy action and get some quick wins. It's going to be a great video. Hope you'll enjoy it and hope you'll make LinkedIn the asset that it can be for you. Would love to introduce our guests. Ian, maybe if you could start, say hi to the audience and just tell them a little bit about your data background.
Sure. Hey, everyone. Ian here. Self-taught data analyst. So I broke into data without that traditional background of going to college or any background in tech in general. Since then, my LinkedIn presence has kind of been trying to help others do the same thing. Even if you've went to school or not, I try to give those tips and helpful insights of how you can do that as well. Since then, still a few years into data, so still going strong, still in data as my professional career. But yeah.
Thank you, Ian. Lauren, would you mind saying hi and giving a little bit about your background?
Yeah. Hey, everybody. I'm Lauren. I currently work for Maven Analytics as a customer success lead and analytics specialist, which means that I get to really work with our customers and making sure that they are getting the most out of our platform. But I also really excitingly get to do a lot of our own in-house analytics. So I get to kind of look at the data, who's taking courses, who's doing what, and kind of, report on that. I also got started in a very non-traditional way in data. So I was an occupational therapist for about 8 years. And then through a series of, I found data analytics via TikTok and decided that it sounded like a cool thing to try. So I got started. I found Maven pretty early on in my own learning. And so I'm lucky enough to say that I not only work for Maven, but I also learned most of my own skills through Maven. And I, got really active on LinkedIn, really took advantage of everything that had to offer. And I am here today to chat about it.
That's awesome, Lauren. With that, I'd love to get into the meat of it. Maybe, Ian, maybe we could start with you. Do you think LinkedIn is, as important as it has ever been? Do you see it continuing to be important in the future? And what makes LinkedIn something that you guys are willing to spend an hour talking about? Why is it that important?
Sure. Well, first, yes, it is important. Before getting into data, I never had a LinkedIn page. But after having it, the opportunities you have.
Ian.
Oh, can you hear me?
Ian, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. But yeah, having a LinkedIn page is very important because prior to data, never had one. So I didn't have that presence. Since having one and building it, opportunities come at me. Not so frequently, I have to shoo them away, but they still come at me versus me going after them all the time. So it's definitely super helpful to have a good profile and being active on LinkedIn to help you kind of stand out in this kind of flooded job market in data in general. So that's why I think it's most important, just so you can, really stand out.
Yeah, Lauren, anything to add?
Yeah, I think that one of the really cool things about LinkedIn is that it's kind of this twofold situation where you have this ability to brand yourself personally on LinkedIn and kind of get your name out there, get people to know who you are, what you're about, really share what your journey has been. And then on the other side, it's this professional networking thing where you actually are able to connect with people to find jobs or use those connections to get referrals to find jobs. So it's just a really great, all-in-one kind of platform where it's you've got that ability to brand yourself, but then you've also got the ability to actually find a job on the platform.
Yeah. It is really, it's like a very multifaceted thing. And it's got a lot of benefits. I love that. I love the take from both of you guys. I'm curious, how well do you think if you were to like randomly poll a person in data, and not a person that you know from LinkedIn in data, but just a random data professional, how well do you think most data professionals are using LinkedIn? Is it very common to be like awesome on LinkedIn, or is it more rare or somewhere in the middle? Lauren, maybe start with you on this one.
Yeah, so I have a little bit of an edge here because I've been doing some research on some of our own users. And it's really funny. So I've been looking for people on LinkedIn to kind of see what they're doing and see what their titles are. And you would be shocked at the number of times I search for somebody, I search for, that person's name, I can't find them anywhere, or I do find them and they haven't posted in 10 months. And so I think that, as much as it can feel like that the data analytics LinkedIn space is a little bit crowded, there's so much room for people to get on and kind of find their own niche and get in there in a way that like so many people haven't taken advantage of. So, if I was going to give people a score, the vast majority of people I would say are very, very heavily underutilizing LinkedIn. I would say maybe a 4 out of 10. And that might be a little bit generous, but this is also just kind of based on the fact that I've been looking at a lot of people recently and seeing wow, they have so much opportunity that they're just not really taking advantage of yet.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Ian, would you agree? And if you don't, I guess reject it. If you want to stand up for people at data, or if you do agree, why do you think it is that a lot of us in data just don't have the LinkedIn presence that we probably should?
Yeah, so I'll agree on that. So every coaching call I've had, I kind of do a deep dive to areas of improvement. So one of those areas are a LinkedIn profile. I think 100% of them, they're generic. There's nothing great about them. Nothing stands out. And the one part about it is, they don't post. So they're not active on LinkedIn. But yeah, so I would give it a lower score as well. I would agree 4 might be generous because yes, you can have that profile, but you really need to use LinkedIn more than just that kind of static landing page.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think through most of my career, I barely used LinkedIn at all. Maybe I had something, maybe I had a picture on there at some point or not, maybe I had it updated to 3 jobs ago. I was just not a very good user of LinkedIn until recently. And it's definitely a missed opportunity. I feel like my career would have gone better early on if I had used it well. So yeah, I'm curious to hear probably from both of you guys, if you have any anecdotes to when you started using LinkedIn, when did stuff start happening that you would say was positive for your career? Can you kind of talk through how that went? Either of you, if you feel like you've got good examples to share.
Yeah, I can jump in because mine is pretty relevant here. So I started, like I said, I was in OT and I kind of decided that I was going to transition out. And so one of the things that I started doing pretty early on in my transition was writing articles on LinkedIn about the transition from healthcare to data and how some of my skills were transferable, even if I didn't necessarily realize it before then. And what was really cool actually is that at one point, John messaged me on LinkedIn. This is years and years ago, and said, "Hey, this is, your article is great. We'd love to reshare it." Because I had mentioned Maven as one of the tools that I was learning with. And so that was a huge, oh my gosh, this company that has, tons and tons of followers wants to reshare my stuff. This is so cool. And then from there, I think that what happened, and John, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that you guys kind of started to recognize my name. And so when you posted about a job on LinkedIn that was, Maven was looking for a TA for the SQL courses, I popped into the comments and I was like, "Hey, I'm here. I'd love to do it." And so I actually, my job very much came through LinkedIn, and it was something entirely unanticipated and unexpected, and would have been a completely missed opportunity had I not started posting those articles in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so interesting because that, we were talking about anecdotes in the previous one of just how getting active online helped people's careers, and your name was the one that I thought was worth sharing. And same thing now I think I told it a little bit wrong, but I do remember, yeah, you posting on it and me going, oh yeah, I know Lauren. I've read her articles. I think she would be fantastic. She's really enthusiastic about data, about trying to help people learn. And I was like, she would be perfect for this. We literally, I don't think we interviewed anybody else for the role, and then later we tried to convince you to join full-time and eventually did get you to join full-time, which was really great. So she, in that scenario, whole bunch of people are interested in this job, and Lauren put herself to the front of the pack and literally eliminated the competition from even getting an interview because she was a known quantity to a busy hiring manager that doesn't want to talk to 100 people. They just want one really good person. So I think a really awesome example. Thanks, Lauren. Ian, how about you? Was there a moment when like you were like, wow, this was really good that I'm doing LinkedIn, like things are starting to take off?
Yeah, but it is kind of in a different sense. Mainly because the position I put myself out there on LinkedIn wasn't necessarily for career development. It was more on the helping out other people that were like me getting into the field. But even doing that, I still had opportunities where companies or even people came to me for more like moonlighting projects or trying to recruit me, even though I already had a job and stuff like that. So I never acted upon those just because I'm too busy. But those opportunities did come up directly from posting, and that's where they found me.
It's still very nice to be asked, even if you're too busy, like that's fantastic. I love it. How about, I'd love to talk about kind of any major do's and don'ts for LinkedIn. Like maybe start with the don'ts. What are some things that you should avoid or, pitfalls to steer away from on LinkedIn? Maybe Ian, if you've got any, let's start with you this time.
Yeah, so some don'ts or a major don't would be, it's kind of a two-part. So just don't post like interested or any of those terms when people are saying, hey, post interested and we'll talk in the DMs or something like that if they're hiring. I don't think I've ever heard a scenario where that's actually panned out to a job offer or even an interview.
Yeah.
So don't waste your time doing that. Just try to reach out yourself and connect with them on your own instead of in the comments like that. And then the other one would be, don't ask for a resume review in your initial kind of DM to somebody. Most that kind of turns people off because that you're kind of setting them up for like homework or work to do when maybe they're too busy to do that. I would say try to just have that conversation first, find that common interest, get them to laugh, something like that, and then talk about the role when it makes sense. So kind of connect with that person on a human level and not just get right into, hey, look at this resume and stuff like that. So that would be the major don'ts that I would have.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was looking to see if Al Bellamy is in the chat right now because I'm hearing his voice coming out of your lips saying like, don't let the first thing you ever say to me be something you want me to do for you,
Exactly.
and that a lot of people do that, and it's like immediately this is not really a person I want to associate with, kind of it's a little inconsiderate. Lauren, how about you? Any other do's or let's stick on don'ts. Any other don'ts? Those were amazing ones, Ian.
Yeah, so I think that, again, thinking about LinkedIn in that kind of twofold way where there's the connection side of things and then there's the job searching side of things. On the job searching side, I would say I totally agree with Ian, like the whole, posting interested in a job listing or a post for the job and assuming that that's going to be like you're in is probably not the best practice there. Something else that I would really think about with the job side of things is considering how long an application has been opened. So, don't apply to jobs that already have hundreds and hundreds of applications that have been open for 2-3 weeks. So on that side of things, I think one of the big ones on the kind of more connection side of things for me would be don't take other people's material. So if somebody has spent a lot of time writing a LinkedIn post, don't don't take it. Don't like just reuse it and call it your own. And also don't be antagonistic. I'll put it kindly. I think that LinkedIn can kind of be a place where people, it's a professional networking site. And so being kind, being considerate, being respectful in comments is definitely kind of on my do side of things. So the opposite of that would really be don't be antagonistic. Don't try to start fights in comments. Things like that are again kind of just going to turn people off and make them think like, oh, this isn't necessarily somebody that I want to know more about.
Yeah, it's a friendly place in general. Like it's so almost like kind of be on your best behavior. Don't do anything you wouldn't want your grandma to see, that type of rule of thumb. And it's funny you say don't steal somebody's content, because I remember when we were starting to do LinkedIn for Maven, we were putting a lot of effort into it. And I remember we had these things we called Maven quick tips, and somebody just copied it and they changed it to Steve's quick tips. And that was the only thing they changed. And I remember sharing it, and Chris did not like this at all. And I thought it was really funny. Like, it's like, okay, I think we're starting to have made it a little bit that somebody would be interested in copying our content, but it definitely does happen, and it's annoying. And don't be that person.
It's funny now too, because it's so easy for people to put your content in ChatGPT, say, hey, rewrite this for me, and then use it. But it's still very clearly like, it's, this is, if you're gonna go to the effort of posting on LinkedIn and getting active, then do it in a way that would make you proud and would make you, like actually stand out in a crowd.
Yeah. Really good, quick, just like building on question from Kevin in the chat. What about reposting? So like Lauren posts something, is reposting okay?
I totally think reposting is okay. I think that, when people repost my content, I really appreciate it. I think that one of the things that I think we'll probably touch on later is like, it's a little bit scary to post on LinkedIn, even after having done it pretty consistently for 2 years at this point. It is nerve-wracking sometimes to be like, hey, is this something that other people are going to find interesting? Is this something that people are going to find useful? And so others reposting stuff is a really, really great indication to me that I'm doing something right. So that's a really, really great call out. There's a huge difference to me between reposting somebody's stuff and just taking it and saying, hey, this is my own thought.
Trying to author it. Yeah.
Right,
the repost
exactly.
is great. Like a repost helps somebody who's putting content out there get seen by more people. So yeah, repost is appreciated versus like plagiarism is less so.
Right.
Awesome. How about things that would be good to do, some best practices for LinkedIn? Lauren, let's start with you this time.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that there's a couple of really, really easy things that people can do. One of which is to have a complete profile. So to me, that means having a profile picture that is something that is at least professional, maybe like a headshot, having a banner image. So LinkedIn has a stock image that's kind of that banner behind your picture. And you can change that so easily, create something that's really simple and clean and says who you are, what you do. You can do that for free on like a Canva type of website. So those two big things, having a headline, saying I'm a data analyst, here are the skills that I use, or, this is, whatever you want your headline to be, something about data, something to get people to know who you are, what you're doing. And then, having some kind of bio, having your work experience there. So really just like filling out those profile sections is I won't say easy, or I guess I won't say quick, but it is an easy way to get started. And I think it definitely adds a ton of value immediately to your profile.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, definitely make sure it's complete. I think that's a great one. Ian, what do you think? What are some of your best practices for LinkedIn?
I 100% agree with everything Lauren just said. Those are probably some of the things I would have said too. But other than that, I would say, obviously, post. Just post, because that is how people see you. Your profile is kind of stagnant there, but if you want people to come to your profile, I would say post, get out there, engage in comments, and know I don't mean like data influencers, like if you want to call me one, don't come here to my comments kind of looking for a job. I would say you are more better off going to a recruiter, a manager, other data analysts within a company you want to work for, and see who's posting and active on LinkedIn there and engage in their content, because they're the people who you want to be at top of mind when they are hiring a data professional. So that's where I would be if I was looking for a job. But then again, also having that fully fleshed out profile. So when a recruiter says, hey, I like how this person talks in the comments or something like that, they go to your profile. That's the first thing they see. And if you have that nicely filled out, chances are they'll reach out to you. Or at least the chances go up.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we said this in the last call as well, but basically there is zero chance that you will get hired without someone having viewed your LinkedIn profile. It's the easiest way to get a quick background on a potential candidate. So that's kind of like the minimum. Your profile's got to look good. And then, the next layer is networking and doing that. But yeah, that's awesome.
Hey there, hope you're enjoying the video. Sorry to interrupt, we'll get you right back to it. Right now, Maven Analytics is offering a deal that was just too big not to share it with you. We've got an early Black Friday sale, and you can save up to 50% off of Maven Analytics paid plans. So if you've been considering learning Excel, SQL, Power BI, Python, Tableau, and everything else that you need to become a data analyst or accelerate your career, now is the perfect time. Check it out at mavenanalytics.io. You can see the Black Friday offer in the banner at the top of the screen. You can't miss it. Again, if you're on the fence, there's never been a better time. We don't do a lot of these sales, so I hope that some people will take advantage. Now, enjoy the video. I'll let you get back to it. Thanks.
Let's mix in a couple questions because there's some stuff here. I know we said we'd go a little longer, but there's just some great questions. So this is Mohammed. What kind of content or posts do you recommend for someone transitioning into data analytics to showcase expertise, even if they don't have a formal work history in the field? So like what types of topics or like themes, how would you advise a person like this? And I think both of you you were that person. What do you think?
Lauren, you can go first if you like.
Yeah, sure. So I think that there's a couple of different things you can do. First, I would say like posting about what you're learning. I did this a lot when I was learning SQL. It's like I learned and really understood the difference between a left join and an inner join, and I posted about it and talked about it. Or I learned the difference between where and having in a SQL query, and so I posted about it and talked about it. And that to me is saying I'm learning, I'm understanding these data concepts, and that's kind of a really great way to get into it. The other thing I would say is post portfolio projects. That is something that I did at the very beginning. I have a couple, I actually participated in a few Maven data challenges at the very, very beginning of when I was kind of learning. So the Maven Space Challenge was one that I still get reactions on that post to this day. But it's a really great way to I can really get on the soapbox here, so I'll try to keep it brief. But posting a portfolio project is such a great way for you to explain the steps that you took with your data, what you kind of did with your data visualization, what you found, and what kind of recommendations or insights you have. And that's such a complete way to show, even if you don't have the formal work history, you have the skills needed.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's like I can get a picture that Lauren can do the analyst job because you're basically kind of like doing it in a post, right? It's as close as you're going to get to really being on the job. So that's awesome. Yeah, really, really good advice there. Any other topics, Ian, that you think you'd put on people's lists?
Well, I could see why you put us on this call together because we were very like-minded. So yes, absolutely agree with Lauren. I would say if you're learning a new skill or you're in a course, whatever you're learning, post about that. No matter how small it is. I remember I've even posted something about version history in Excel. Something very minor like that you could post about. So anything you're learning, SQL, Excel, Tableau, Power BI, And then I will agree posting about your projects, but also not always going into insights that you found. You could always ask for feedback as well. So that would be a good way to kind of get better at what you're doing. People will tell you if something doesn't look great. So just know that feedback is coming and just handle it correctly. I'm sure they're not being mean about it. But that's how I would create that kind of feedback loop. So when it's time to put this portfolio project on my portfolio, I want it to be the best ones that I have. And you can only really get that with feedback.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can always tear your project apart and rebuild it. And, you should, if you know that it can be better. Yeah. It's awesome. Yeah. And I think both of you guys talked about kind of posting about things you're learning. And a lot of people think you have to be the expert to share some things, but there's this whole other persona that can be active on LinkedIn and that's that learner persona. And we've seen so many people take that approach. It's a very honest approach. It shows that you're rolling up your sleeves and you want to be better. And you are a learning machine, which is so important in our industry because like you're never going to be done. You could have a 20-year career, which I think I'm getting pretty close to. And like, there's so many things that I still need to learn and constantly I'm doing. So just identifying yourself as a learner, showing that passion, it's effective. And I love that you guys both talked about that. That's fantastic. Here's one I'm curious about from Kevin. So Kevin asks, is LinkedIn already saturated with really great folks like you two? Or is it too late? Or is there still an opportunity to do kind of what you guys did and build brands on LinkedIn?
Saturated, I'm sure it is, but I still think it is important to do so. And I believe just from my own, I haven't put the data together to get that accurate insights on it, but I believe LinkedIn is actually pushing lower following content a bit more than people who have over 80,000 followers. Because I'm seeing a lot more people from the $5,000 to $50,000 or not $50,000 follower count range have some huge traction on their posts. So it might be saturated, but I still think LinkedIn is pushing more of that lower following count content out there.
Yeah, would you agree, Lauren?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And there is being somebody who's very active on LinkedIn, and as it is part of my job to some extent. So I have the ability to kind of dig into this stuff. So I've read LinkedIn algorithm reports, and Ian, I can tell you that I've seen that being backed up in some of those reports. But I also even in the last 3 to 6 months, I'd say that I am seeing new names every day, and I'm seeing them over and over again, which to me means that they are growing an audience as we speak. I think that there's definitely still room. And to me, it's kind of about finding the niche that you're going to be talking about. So is it kind of transitioning into a data career from a different field, or is it you are a SQL whiz, or are you going to become the Excel guru? And really trying to find that place where maybe there aren't as many people in that specific space. So I do think that, like Ian said, yes, there's a lot of us out there that are very active on LinkedIn. It is probably, a little bit more challenging than it was 2, 3, 4 years ago to really become a big name on LinkedIn. But that's also, to me, not entirely the goal either. You don't necessarily have to become this huge content creator to leverage LinkedIn to your advantage. If every single person out there was really using LinkedIn as much as the three of us are, for instance, it probably would get really old really fast. But, even being able to get on and start commenting and engaging and reacting and networking with people, that in itself is enough. So I would say if you don't want to, don't make your goal to become a data content creator. Make your goal to use LinkedIn to the best ability or the best thing that you need it to be.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm probably a little bit less active than the two of you, I think, on LinkedIn, but I ebb and flow. And what I would say is that even just this week, I've been more on LinkedIn because we're running this open campus session and there's tons of people tagging us and stuff. And I feel like I have met a lot of people on LinkedIn like just this week. So, even though there's tons of people, I met Lauren and Ian over a year ago, a couple of years ago. It's not like these are the only people that I'm seeing. Like I'm seeing new faces constantly, and it's really fun. I don't know. I love it. So I think you could definitely still break in, and like Lauren said, you don't have to become this mega influencer. You just need one hiring manager, to make it work. So very cool. Vaishali has a one here that I think is a really good one. How can I optimize my LinkedIn profile for job searches or attracting recruiters in the data industry? Any big tips for making sure your profile is solid?
Sure. So if you are specifically attracting recruiters, I've talked to a few over these years, and the first thing they filter by is location. So if you are comfortable with on-site, they're going to look for data professionals within the location of that job. So if you are, let's say, on the outskirts of a bigger city, but you're comfortable with commuting there, I would put your location on LinkedIn in that bigger city, because that's where they're going to look. Of course, they have that range of miles of out from that location that they could look at, but I would just put it in there. And that's for on-site. For recruiters for a remote position, I would say you'd have to take more of that active outreach approach and kind of go find them and then try to connect with them.
Awesome. Yeah. What do you think, Lauren? Any additional advice for somebody looking for recruiters?
Yeah. So I think that one of the other things that you can do, and again, it's a pretty easy one, is to change your headline. So that is that like piece of, that's like that 1 line or 2 line long thing that you'll see underneath your profile picture. And that is seen every single time you post or comment or post or comment or message somebody. So if you're, make sure that you have the words data analyst, make sure that if there's a specific tool that you're really using a lot, you have that tool in there. Really optimize for those keywords that people are going to be searching by. And same thing kind of with your bio, make sure that you have a lot of those same keywords inside your bio. And that I think is also one of those things that'll really help recruiters see your profile more easily. And then especially if it's in your headline, they don't even really have to click on your profile to be like, oh, this could be a good person. Right. So that is one big thing that I would think about doing.
Yeah. And that shows up in comments, I think too, which is, so just anywhere you are. Yeah. That's really smart. Headline is like some of your most valuable real estate. That's awesome. This one's, I like this one. It's probably going to make us think a little bit. This is from Mohammed. What are some overlooked but high impact ways to engage with the data community on LinkedIn that most professionals aren't taking advantage of?
Interesting. The most high impact ways. Yeah, I would say it kind of goes back to how I would find a job, and it's how I found my last 2 data positions. It's not from the job board. It's directly reaching out to someone who is posting that they're hiring on their data team. So to find those people, you use LinkedIn like a search engine, like you would Google, and type in hiring data analyst, hiring analyst, filter that by posts, filter that by most recent, search this throughout your day, because you never know when someone's going to post about a job position, and then filter through all the spam. There's going to be a lot of it. And then find a real person saying, hey, I'm looking to hire a data analyst on my team. Here's a job posting. And then that's the person you reach out to. That's the person you comment on that post. But don't just say interested, say, hey, just try to get to know them first. But that's how I would go about it if I was looking for a job.
That's a really, really smart tip. Like you're getting surgical with the way you're using it. That's awesome. Yeah.
So I will say the amount of jobs you apply for would decrease drastically that way. Instead of blasting to 100 job applications, I only did 10 for my last data job. So it's quality over quantity at that rate. I'm not saying you don't have to constantly post or constantly apply on the job board, but this way is benefited me the most.
That's awesome. Lauren, how about you? Any other secret hacks that we can let out here?
That is, Ian, that is like such a good one. And just a side note, Orson, I think that answers your question really well about a better method for searching for jobs quickly. So just kind of throwing that out there. That's exactly how I would have answered that question. But I agree that that is such a high impact way to really use LinkedIn to your advantage. I'm struggling kind of to think of other things to do. I think that truly people are not taking enough advantage of the everyday things that LinkedIn has to offer. So if you write a quick article about something that you've learned, or even if you just post something, it's obviously not necessarily overlooked, but I think that most data professionals are not taking advantage of that. And so kind of getting in there and doing that is just such a good way to kind of start.
Yeah, it's awesome. This was a good one from Dahlia that kind of builds on, I think, what Ian said. So Ian, you're saying, you're talking about using LinkedIn to find the right person that you want to connect with, whether it's that person that's posting the job or just in general, trying to build your network. Like, what are some best practices to actually expand the network? We said, like, the worst thing to do is just like give somebody an ask as the first thing out of your mouth when you send them a message. What's a better approach? Like, how would you recommend networking with people?
I think I mentioned find that common interest. So what I do is I go to that person's LinkedIn profile, which, doubles up on how important that LinkedIn profile is. I'll look for things like previous work history, what colleges they went to, things like that. So when I have that initial conversation, I try to throw in some humor in there to kind of stand out a bit. So I'll look up a rival college mascot or say something like, hey, I just want to connect, even though that you're a Gators fan, or something like that. And then I'll leave it at that. And then I'll probably get a response from that. And then from there, I'll just say, hey, saw you posted about this job position, would love to learn more about it. And I'm still not asking for them to do anything on behalf of me. So from there, I would just see where that conversation goes. But that's what I would do. Try to find that background. Or even if it's someone like a higher up, chances are they might be found on Google doing other things. So find out if they're on webinars or they have blog posts they wrote about. Those are the things you want to research prior to reaching out. So you can kind of plug those in your conversation. So they're like, oh, this person is really interested.
Yeah, it's really smart. I love it. And it's just like, it's such a better approach than the immediate ask. I think that's really good. Lauren, how about you? Any other tips for how to expand your network?
Yeah, I think that, so a couple of things come to mind. One, I will say that, like, Ian, I totally agree with you. I definitely have done this myself. There is a podcast that I really like. I think it's called The Data Chief. And the podcast host is on LinkedIn. And so I really wanted to connect with her. And so I messaged her and I said, hey, really enjoyed this specific, podcast episode, and really thought it was, I kind of went into like why I thought it was so great. And I said, like, I'd really love to connect with you. And it's such a great way to call out the people who are just saying the same thing over and over, or not sending a message with their connection request. So I think that is definitely a huge one, is finding that common interest, or saying, hey, really appreciate this thing that you did. The other thing that you can do is, if you find somebody that you really like, for instance, if I went to like Annie Nelson's LinkedIn page, on the right-hand side, there's usually people who are similar to her, or like people who you also might like to connect with, kind of things. And typically they're going to be people who have similar job titles, maybe post about similar things. And so that's another way to kind of really narrow down who you're looking to follow or connect with. So, using that LinkedIn algorithm's ability to essentially tell you people that you might also like to connect with is a really good one.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's interesting. So you both are suggesting methods that they take a little bit of effort. It's not just as simple as hitting a button. And I think folks on this call might be saying, well, like, oh man, that's like a lot of work just for a connection. But what I would say to that is, the goal is not volume of connections that accepted a connection request that you don't really know. It's like the actual number of good connections of people that you feel like you're starting to build a relationship with and really know, like, that's the point. The connection count or the follower count is really of very little value, but having like a hiring manager know who Lauren is when she's interested in the role, like, that's really the goal. So even if it seems like, hey, that's too much effort, I don't think it is. I think it should be quantity of and good connections over just trying to, spray and pray and to be able to say you're connected to these people, but they don't actually know who you are. So, awesome. So yeah, we're getting close on time, but would love to do like one or two more if we can. Let's see. This one, I'm curious about this one. This one's from Daria. I actually am not super sure about this one, but I'm curious if you guys have come across any good tips. So Daria is saying, what's the best way if you're trying to get a job through LinkedIn in another region or country that's not where you are today? Like, how do you flag that, or how do you get over that hurdle that people might think like, oh, Daria is not a fit because they're not where I want them to be right now? Any tips for that one? It's a hard one.
So I think for me, the tip is probably going to be very similar to what we said in the past. Reach out to the person. If you can figure out who's posting a job, or, like what area you're looking for, reach out to that person and say, hey, I'm planning to apply for this job. I currently live in X location, but I'm planning to relocate to, so that you're not immediately like called out of that application process is one way that I would think about doing it. That's off the top of my head, but Ian, I'm not sure if you have any other better suggestions.
No, it's tough, being like in the States and just looking for States, jobs. So yeah, a lot of time the job description will say not accepting visa candidates or something like that. But yeah, the best way to find that out is to ask, whether they post that part or not, especially on the relocation. Some offer relocation assistance, but that's not necessarily in every job description. So you just have to ask.
Cool. Lauren, Ian, you guys were fantastic. Thank you so much for joining here today.
Hey there, I hope you enjoyed this video. This was part of our open campus event where we ran 24 sessions in front of a live audience over the course of 2 weeks. It was a ton of fun. We did all these live sessions and we opened up our entire learning platform for free. You did not need a paid account to take advantage of all the courses. So folks could learn Excel, SQL, Power BI, Tableau, Python, etc. All the stuff that you need to learn data analysis skills and take your career to the next level. If you missed it this year, keep an eye out. We'll definitely be doing this again next year, probably again in October. We would love to see you there. And the last thing that I'll leave you with, if you're looking to take your skills to the next level right now and you've been on the fence about a Maven Analytics paid plan, we are currently running our early Black Friday sale. This is the absolute best time to pay for Maven Analytics if you want to, so don't miss out. You'll have the opportunity to save up to 50% on paid plans, which is a pretty great opportunity. You can check out all the details at mavenanalytics.io. Just look for the early Black Friday banner at the top of the site. You can't miss it. Hope that we'll see some of you there as well. Thanks for watching.